Welcome, everyone, and welcome on behalf of the Interior Beauty Salon, an organism living, moving at the intersection of creativity and healing. And tonight and every night, I would like to acknowledge those who were here before many of us, the Lenape, and I'm actually sitting on unceded or stolen Lenape land, now called the Bronx, the South Bronx. And with that said, I would like to welcome Priscilla Marrero, who will welcome our guest for tonight for La Pelvis with Lulu.
Hola! I'm here with Lulu. Thank you so much for being here. We're so excited today for our session. We have the wonderful Alfons Grabher, who who I met through YouTube, actually, through another dancer friend who actually told me in a party when I was looking for classes on somatic practice, and she really connected to Alphonse's work. And then I went on the YouTube, and already for a couple of years, I was doing Alphonse improving ability classes through YouTube, and every time I would bring in Alphonse, I just loved his humor and his practice and the way he approached with curiosity and excitement. And so I reached out while I've been during La Pelvis project, during my 2 years in the MFA program at UCR. And I reached out because I wanted to connect with Alphonse, because I felt like this is someone I would love to collaborate with. And Alphonse so kindly said yes for a conference that we did at the Dance Studies Association in October. And so since then, Alphonse and I have continued a collaboration, a lot of pelvis conversations. And so I'm so happy and so grateful that Alphonse is here with us today, all the way from Vietnam. So welcome, Alphonse.
Thank you for the welcome. Yes, I enjoy it. So this is actually quite surprising. Like in the waiting list, there were like 50 people and now we are 4 people. So I think this makes things very much easier for a conversation. Because actually I like to work in one-on-one sessions, and because in group meetings, it's very difficult to look at everyone. Actually, it's not possible. So let's see how this session develops. So I know Priscilla, I know Niklas a little bit. Luis, could you tell me shortly who, or will you introduce me more formally? Or Luis, did you read my bio? Do you know anything of the work I do?
Yeah, through Priscilla, I heard a lot about you. I work with Priscilla as a mentor of her MFA project, a final project, and she has been talking a lot about you with excitement. And I have seen you working YouTube. And I'm very surprised that there's not so many people here, because I was very excited about doing this class particularly. I have been practicing somatic work for a long time, and I teach variations of different somatic practices, including Feldenkrais, that is the one that I have been practicing for less time, and about 11 years or something, but the rest for longer. But I don't know anything. I don't really know much. I mean, it's a constant relearning, and yeah. So, and I am a choreographer, a visual artist as well, a performing artist. I do, art is what I do. Yeah, but I would like to know more about you. Anyway, I will. During the previous section, you were doing the class, and it was funny to see the, the whole situation, and it was Yeah, so I'm just looking forward to know more about you and to experience your knowledge. Yeah.
Mm-mm. So for the topic today, Priscilla, she asked me to write something, what we're going to do, and I came up with a long paragraph because at the moment I'm very interested in how language relates to movement, the way we construct language. And you know, we are born, we don't speak, we make sounds, and then we start to identify sounds and try to get the e right until the parents identify something that sounds like papa, and they say, it's papa, and then we calibrate into a direction. And it depends on where we are born. Like if you're born in, for example, in North America, we are likely to learn English, and if you're born in Italy, we're likely to learn Italian. And the language has some grammar, and I think movement also has something like this. And maybe it's not as well discovered yet. Maybe we as humankind, we are on the brink of discovering more about movement. As you can see when you, I don't know much about dance studies, but you can see the passion people have for movement. And once they're into it, it's like music or art, or like it becomes part of ourselves to research and to learn more and to want to become better. And my question in from the viewpoint of somatic education is how I can source movements like from all the possible sounds, from all the possible movements. How can I pick a movement that is meaningful to yeah, that's the question. Meaningful to what? And then how can I put them together in a way? What is the grammar? How can I put movements together? In my field, what I work is most of all to help people with their chronic pain problems. So somebody has a knee trouble and is very stubborn, and they have been to so many places, and they have been working to try to get the knee better for such a long time. And then I will work with the person in a one-to-one setting, and I will identify maybe she's not moving the chest right. Maybe she maybe she missed something in her learning, because we as humans, we are born and we cannot walk like a horse is born, and the horse can walk in a day and run in 2 days. But for us to be able to run and skip and jump, it takes 5-6 years of learning, not just growing, but learning. And we start with identifying our limbs in space, to be able to put the hands together, to be able to cross midline, then to be able to turn the head. So that's why I call my YouTube channel Improving Ability, because it's being able to do certain movements. And so on one hand, we discover ourselves, we discover a lot, but then we also we are born into a social context, which makes some things possible and other things impossible. So as an Austrian, there's things I don't learn in my culture. So our babies are not allowed to learn how to crawl down stairs with the head first, which they would be perfectly able to do. I verified that myself. But babies will not learn to climb wall. And if you put a baby on a boulder wall, it can get 10 million views on YouTube, because it's so unusual to see a baby climbing a wall, or to see a baby swimming, or to see a baby diving. And the way I teach, I think we teach very systematically. We teach movements we might have missed or might have not learned as good as we could have. And by relearning or looking at movements, we improve. So not just chronic pain, but many areas in our lives. So I was thinking, before I talk too much, we should maybe do a short movement sequence, so we have something to discuss about. Yes? So Priscilla agrees? Okay, so do all of you have like a floor space where you can lie down on your back, and where most of all I can see you, so you can please point the camera? Yes, well, that's what I'm talking about. I can see everything. Okay. Okay, so a nice space, very good. And so just come to lie down on your back. Okay, so perfect. You're on your back. And then we start with a first movement is to lift your head and look at your pelvis or look at your feet, look at your socks. See so, yes, with a idea of exploring how you lift, how do you do it to look at your feet or to look at your pelvis. So you don't know what color socks you wear or what color trouser you're wearing. Is it the black one or is it the green one? And so you lift your head to. Did Luis, are you okay, okay, perfect. So it's okay, just a little bit. So I just wanted, so you know, with the webcam sometimes I cannot see the small movement, but that's okay, that's perfect. Okay, so I have a sample of both of your movements, and I'm okay, and that's enough. Then you just rest. And so this is the movement we want to improve at first, the way we lift the head in lying down. How do we improve such a movement? So that would be my question. And of course we can do repetition, we can do weight training, we can strap a band to the head and try to work against the resistant band to improve the neck muscles, but that's not the kind of that's not a very sophisticated movement grammar. So it's just one movement. And how can I expand on this? And for this, please put your hands on your chest and find your clavicles. So you just rest on the, exactly. And then you rest, you place your hands on your chest and you wait a little bit until the hands are quiet again. And then you just slowly move. And when you find your clavicles, you can find these are two longish, one is on the left and one is on the right. Exactly. You can do this in sitting also. And with the fingertips, very, very softly, try to so you can feel your clothes, and then you can feel your skin, and quite right under the skin are those bones. So there's the bones themselves, they don't have much muscles around them, so you can feel them quite clearly, and try to get an image, like an internal map of this bone. How long are your clavicle bones? Or maybe you want to cross over your hands, then it's easier to reach. What kind of shape are they? Are they like twisted, or do they have a strong curve, or are they more like long? Are they like 4 fingers long, or are they like 10 fingers long? Are they quite long, or are they short? And the closer you come towards your throat, you will find there's 2 knobs. The clavicles end in 2 knobs, and in between there's nothing. There's like a little bow. So identify the knobs where the the sternoclavicular joints, where the clavicles meet the sternum. That's like little joints made from cartilage. And then downwards you have the sternum. The upper part, it's like almost like a rectangle. It's called the manubrium. It's like a little plate. And you can move your hands a little bit further down the sternum. It's like really a plate, a chest plate. It's from Greek. The name means solid. It's like a solid bone in front of your chest. And to the left and to the right, you can identify ribs. So the ribs, the ends of the ribs, the cartilage ends, it's not really bones, but it's like very hard cartilage, but feels like bones. But they feel distinctively different than the clavicles. The clavicles are much more wider and more open than the ribs, but you can feel with the fingers in between the ribs. It's soft, there's muscles. Yes, so of course you have ribs all around the chest. So that's an interesting discovery, to discover that the ribs go around and they meet in the back. But our area, the interesting area at the moment, is up on the front side, below the throat. This chest, what is it? Where the women wear the jewelry, or where people wear jewelry, or neck bands and talismans, and so you can put your flat hand there and let your hands rest on your sternum, not on your throat, but on your sternum, on the top part of the bony part of your chest. Yes, and let your hands kind of fuse with this area, and put a little bit of a light, a little bit more than the weight of the hands, a little bit of a light pressure, and find the direction of downwards, so towards your pelvis and towards the floor. It's like almost massaging, but without sliding too much, bringing weight, so depressing the ribs. So maybe when you breathe in, you can feel the ribs, they rise a little bit, not much, but maybe they rise a little bit. And when you breathe out, follow that with your hands to depress the ribs. So you make your rib cage smaller and pull down towards your pelvis, which kind of pulls a little bit on your clavicles. Actually, it's a downward movement, downward towards your pelvis and the floor. The floor is actually behind you, so it's a movement towards your back and your below. Yes, and you can imagine if you would lift the head, you would pull in this way, you would pull with your hands, you would shorten your front side. And by shortening your front side, the back side is lengthening. And that's a opportunity for the head to lift, or a way to help the head lift. And if you're sitting, that's a way to bow forwards. When your front side is shortening, you can imagine your hands are sinking together with the front side of your chest, and you bow forwards, you look downwards towards your pelvis, you shorten your front side. Exactly. So it's not a strong lever, but it's a component of lifting the head. Or of a component to bow forwards. It's like elegant, monsieur, madame. You bow forwards, and then you come up into your resting position again. Okay. So what could be another movement that falls into this pattern? Let's look at the other end of the body, the feet. So bring your awareness to your legs, and start to bend your knees towards the ceiling, to the outside, to stand your feet. So draw up your knees so the feet come to stand, and maybe try to draw up both feet at the same time. And you will feel, if you draw up both feet at the same time, it's quite a pull on the pelvis. So if you don't stabilize the pelvis, it will roll forwards. There will be a roll, and the lower back will lift. So continue to do this movement, to bend your knees and to extend your knees, and feel the connection to the pelvis. So this means the pelvis, if the pelvis will roll either forwards or backwards. So you could, when you bend your knees, press your lower back against the floor to help the pelvis to pull on the knees to get the feet to standing. Okay, and when the feet are standing, let them stand, keep them standing. And then press with the feet a little bit more against the floor to roll the pelvis backwards. It's like a posterior pelvis tilt. You put pressure on the floor with your feet so the pelvis rolls, so the lower back will come closer to the floor. So this is interesting to the cat. And so you can turn this into a rolling. When you take weight off the feet, the pelvis will roll towards the feet, and when you push with the feet against the floor, the pelvis will roll towards the head. So you can make this a really small movement. And if you continue pushing with the feet against the floor, you can even turn this into a lifting of the pelvis. So the pelvis first rolls backwards, and then vertebra by vertebra, you can lift the pelvis off the floor and come higher and higher. A little bit, and that's actually an interesting movement. So when you lift your pelvis, at some point it's a flexion. So the front side still becomes shorter, but then the situation changes, and then it's an extension, and the front side becomes longer and the back side becomes shorter. So stay with the beginning of the movement where you're still pressing your back or the middle of your back against the floor, the lower back or the middle of the back against the floor, and then back down again. Okay, and then extend your legs. So we have three movements that are connected to the first movement, the lifting of the head. So try that again, to lift your head, to look towards your pelvis, or to look towards, you can think of your sternum. And there's maybe the difference between having your hands on the front of your chest and not having the hands on the front of your chest is not that big again, because it's still in your feeling, in your kinesthetic awareness that the chest, the front side, the upper part can shorten. Yes, and you could let's do one more thing. Your arms are extended and your hands are on the floor already, and when you lift your head, slide your hands downwards, not towards the feet, but downwards in the direction of the feet, something like this. So this is a way of lifting the shoulders, or of assisting the movement even more. It also falls into the same pattern. Yes. Or you could have interlace your hands and bring your hands behind your head and rest your head in your hands and point the elbows towards the ceiling. And now lift the head, and at the same time bend your knees and bring your feet towards standing. So it's just the beginning. So it should not be like a workout, just a connecting of the legs to the arm movement. And it's a quite complex movement now already. So you had the lifting of the head, the shortening of the ribs with the clavicles and the sternum, and you were moving your hands with your arms extended downwards, and now the hands are behind your head, so it's much more involved for the upper part of the body. So this is like a, maybe this is like an emphasis in the sentence, like we say indeed, or so we're putting things together and making the sentence stronger. If the lifting of the head would be the subject of a sentence. Okay, and then rest again. And feel how you're resting now, and also observe your inner state. These couple of movements change the way we perceive ourselves, we feel ourselves. And then return to the reference movement of lifting the head, yes, looking at the cat, and see how it is if you lift your head now. Okay, so we'll put a couple of more components together. So stand your feet. And interlace your hands, bring your hands behind your head. The elbows towards the ceiling. And now bring your right elbow towards your right knee, and your right knee towards your right elbow. So you lift your head and you lift your right foot. And can we compare the foot to the head? So you're lifting two things, your head and your foot. And it's stay with the right elbow towards the right knee. So we will groove this part a couple of times. So it's the right elbow towards the right knee. So we explore this one movement. Yes, so maybe every time you do it, you can find a way to bring the right elbow a little bit closer towards the right knee, and the right knee a little bit closer towards the right elbow. So there's a couple of things you can discover inside yourself in the way you do this movement that makes this motion easier. For example, while you lift your head, I'm sure you can, if you look for it, perceive a little bit a tendency to turn the head to the left. So even if there's just a little tendency, follow that tendency to turn the head. I saw Niklas doing it, but it's different in sitting. In sitting, you have a different relations to gravity, so it's easier to find this motion. And when you're lying on your back, it's maybe not so easy to feel it because you're more heavy on your back. But allow your head to turn to the left. And if it doesn't turn to the left, maybe do it a little bit deliberately, and then see, actually it makes sense. The right side, the ribs on the right side, they come closer towards each other. The right side shortens, and you turn your head to the left while your right elbow is traveling towards your right knee. Yes, there's a twist of the spine. You allow your head to turn to the left. And Priscilla, I think you can move a little bit more slowly. If you do so many repetitions, you will have a six-pack tomorrow. Your friends will ask you, where do you have your abs from? And how about your left foot? Is your left foot of any use in this in this movement, when you push with the left foot against the floor, does this help to lift your right knee? Or does this help to tilt your pelvis? Or is this working against the pattern? So then get hold of your right knee with both hands. So with both hands, reach for your right knee. Okay, so, and it's smart. I see both of you have interlaced the hands, which makes it easier. Luis is, Priscilla, you're not in the same room. For me, you're in the same room, but actually you cannot just turn your head and look at each other. So that's, I see Luis is doing something very, very smart. He's just relaxing. So Priscilla, extend your arms, like let your arms extend and just have like, because if your hands are interlaced already, so the hands are holding, and when your hands are holding, you can relax the arms, and the knee will yes. So it's a relaxed holding of the knee with less effort. And then pull your knee a little bit closer to your chest. So actually now you have to bend the elbows, yes, and then let go a little bit more, and see, that's a movement in your hip joint. And there your pelvis rolls a little bit backwards. So your lower back comes a little bit closer to the floor when you pull your knee closer to, where is it actually? Is it your chest? Is it the middle of your chest, or are you pulling it towards your right armpit? And yes, so you're trying to find this feeling. And if you think of a baby, the work of a baby is these movements. So that's what they do. If they're not sleeping, they move, they explore movement. And they do it because it feels nice. And one movement leads to the next. Now, it would be quite a big thing to lift the head for a baby. So this is not a baby lesson. So let's try. Bring your, what should we bring? The chin towards the right knee. Lift your chin. The chin, that means when you bring your chin towards the knee, that means the forehead is hanging down towards the floor. So that's a hard movement. The chin closer to the knee when you lift your head, and when you bring the knee towards the head. Yes, terrible. Or the forehead. How does this change the movement when you think of your forehead? Yes, so it's a folding, and you can help with your left foot to shorten your front side, and at the same time you can feel your back side is lengthening. The ribs on your back side are expanding, and the ribs on your front side are coming closer to each other. And then when you come into upright position again, or come back down to the floor, you create this equilibrium again, where the front side, the ribs, they open up again, and the back side, they come like, it's like a normal form of a chest again. So maybe bring your left hand behind your head. So maybe that makes it easier. And help to lift your head with your left hand. So the left elbow towards your right knee. But here we have a different, this is a totally different movement, isn't it? It's a diagonal. So suddenly the left elbow is coming closer to the right knee. That means the head turns to the right. It's a different movement. So before the head was turning to the left, now the head is turning to the right. So bring both hands behind your head again. Interlace both hands and try the previous movement to bring the right elbow towards the right knee. And see and allow your head to turn to the left. See if you can find this. Okay, so now this is wonderful because we are a small group. So put your right foot down on the floor. And then with your right hand, so release your hands, bring the arms down on your sides, and then with your right hand, slide down to reach for your right foot. Until you can hold your right foot. So you probably have to bring your right foot a little bit. Yes. Okay. So you're grabbing your ankle. So where can you hold your foot? Okay. And then see if your head is still free. You're holding your hold your ankle. So that's somewhere, yes. And roll your head a little bit to the left and to the right to see that the neck is somewhat free. Okay. And then push with your right foot against and then extend your left leg. Extend your left leg on the floor. So that's not what a baby would do, huh? So it's like an adult movement. And then push with your right foot against the floor so that the pelvis is rolling to the left. But at first keep the head facing towards the ceiling. So we create this constraint. I want the movement in the ribs. So when you have your face towards the ceiling, then there's a twist in the spine. The right side is shortened. Yes, you push with the right foot against the floor, which will turn the pelvis. The pelvis will roll to the left. The right side of your pelvis will lift off the floor and then come back to the floor. Okay, and then instead of holding the head in place, allow the head to roll to the left together with the pelvis. So that when you roll your pelvis to the left, allow the head to roll to the left. And the left arm, you can have it relax. You can. Okay, and then roll the head to the right when you roll the pelvis to the left. So the opposite direction. So look to your right foot when you roll the pelvis to the left. And you can see, so we are in a Zoom, we have cameras, and Niklas, you can see it's the same instruction, and Priscilla, her solution is very different than Luis, his solution. So we express ourselves, we express the moment, how we feel and how we look at things through movement. So we can see it's a very different way to express. It's like when I When I ask somebody to write a little story about how was your day, then the stories will be very different. Not just what happened, but the way we write. And so the way we move, it expresses who we are. And I think the more we study movement, the stronger this expression will be. Just like with music, that the better we will become, the better a musician is. They don't sound the same. When they put thousands of hours, they don't sound like robots all the same. They sound very individual. The better we become at writing, at singing, the more individual we become. Even though we would suspect that if we have a piece of Mozart, everybody would play it the exact same way because the notes are clear, but it's not like this. And the same as with movement. Here it's very, very apparent. Okay, and then extend your legs again and take a rest on your back. And maybe how is your right side compared to your left side? Do you feel any difference? And then lift your head again to look towards your feet or your pelvis. And remember, you can slide your hands downwards. You can let your front side participate. Yes, and yes. See, you're putting the things together, and at the same time, when you lift your head, bend your knees and bring your feet to stand. Into the direction of standing. Wow, yeah, yes, and back again. Okay, and then stand your feet again. Yes, come into this motion of having your feet stand and the knees towards the ceiling. So that's our starting position, and the hands behind your head. And the elbows towards the ceiling, and try this first movement, that movement again, where you bring the right elbow towards your right knee and the right knee towards your right elbow. And see if it's easier now for you to turn the head to the yes, yes, and to shorten your right side, to bring your right hip joint closer to your right shoulder. Exactly. So you can see it comes together naturally. So we didn't have to force it. We didn't have to shout at it. We did a little just a little intervention in between, where you were rolling your pelvis, and now this movement of shortening the right side, also in this situation, became more clear. Okay, let's take a break here. And then we need to get up. So we don't need to, but it makes sense to do it now. So roll over one side and come up to, I don't know, on all fours, or to sitting, and then to standing. And and just stand. And when you stand, turn your head to the left and look over your left shoulder, and back to the front, and then also to the right, and see if you can feel a difference, how you look over your right shoulder or how you look over your left shoulder. And it makes sense that there is a difference if you think about the movement we just did, because in lying down, we brought the right elbow towards the right knee, and it was a turn to the left. So maybe the turn to the left is still better in standing than it is in, yes. And if you think of the components, if you think of shortening your right side, if you bring back to your memory, if you recall the movements you did in lying on the back when you turn to the left, while you turn the head to the left, you think about your rib cage, the sternum, the shortening, that then it becomes even clearer why the turn to the left is better. So like in language, we say something, and that means something. It can stick with us. It can affect our emotions. And the same is with movement. What we did, the movements we did, it can affect the present, the future. It can affect how we move in the future. So the movements we do are not meaningless, but they can be meaningless. But if you move in a certain way, and that is the grammar I'm looking for. How do we have to move? How do we have to put movements together so they mean something? Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for participating in this experiment. I would like to hear your thoughts about the angle I'm looking at this, or maybe your experience, if you would like to share or enter into a discussion about this kind of thinking.
Thank you so much, Alphonse. Wow, I'm like, I just feel like I just jumped in the ocean.
Creature from the sea.
Yeah, I found a lot of release in my hip joints, especially on my right side. Like I found I've been very tight because I've been doing a lot of movement for my pelvis these days. So especially when you asked us to focus on the clavicle and on the sacrum, I started to like feel just the dropping in like as we kept going, and that felt very pleasurable. Um, yeah, and just like an overall like sense of like so thank you.
Thank you.
Um, thank you, thank you uh, so much, Alphonse. Yeah, there's a more clear relationship. What I feel is that a lot of awareness in the front and the back, and of course in the space between, in that relationship between the front and the back, but there's a lot of energy and a space that open up from my chest out and from my back. Um, and then the three dimensionality between the two, um, between the two of them. Um, so there's a lot. I was working a lot with trying to really feel the support of my back as I curl, um, and releasing the front just to let it, whatever activity has to happen there, to let it be. I really love this support of the hands to move the head. Sometimes I in a um, improvisatory way I do it. So, but today it was good to hear the instruction and doing it, and it really I found a lot of possibilities there, which is beautiful. Um, I love I love how the clavicle, that the mapping of the clavicle becoming like you mentioned necklaces and diamonds or whatever you
The
mentioned there.
talisman, yeah.
Exactly. So like feeling that energy moving in a triangle in that direction, and how the head should go on the floor, and it's great. And then also you were commenting on Nicholas being sitting and doing it, and how those things, especially that relationship in the diagonal. So it's
Mm.
also a very interesting um, action to explore sitting, and then in relationship to your sit bones as well. Um, you know, what else? Well, when we become to stands and we were turning the heads, I was thinking a lot about if I turn into my left, the relationship of my right foot on the floor, what my right foot was doing, or the opposite. So that becomes very clear, and then it gives you a stability when you are facing forward. Um, yeah, and it was more clear for me to see the difference when I'm turning on the right and on the left, and both of them became actually interestingly um, mobile. But there was one side, the left side, that I realized it surprised me like how easy it was to move that way. So um, that's that's all. It's a lot, I think.
That's a lot.
Yes, that happens.
Yes, thank you. There's so many concepts. So what I found very interesting also in your observation is when you think about sitting. I just yesterday looked at an article that explored, it's a scientific paper about if we are able to bilocate in with our mind, because now this is a big topic with when you put on the goggles and you go into virtual worlds, uh, then you perceive yourself. So we can put our mind into another space and perceive ourselves as being in another space, or maybe even being another person. And so when we do the movements on the back and you think about sitting, so this changes your perception. And so you draw your experience, your memory from when you have been sitting, and bring it into the, like, I find this a very interesting point of exploration, which brings a whole new dimension to movement. And it's just the question, where can we take this? Like the, the possibilities are endless for this, and the point of exploration.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a question. I couldn't join you on the floor because I'm taking for the evening, and I feel so, what's the word? Um, I'm really grateful to have witnessed this and participated in this experience, even though I couldn't, as I say, I couldn't fully engage, but I was engaging from the chair, and I'm wondering, and let me say this first, and I realized how every part of the body is connected. Like you really made me aware, you made me aware of the fact that if I move this arm, my pelvis is moving in conjunction with the arm and the hand. And even when I go like that, I can feel it in my pelvis. So that's something that I didn't realize before, maybe that fully. But I'm wondering about, and this is really dear to me, how even watching somebody make these movements can have an effect on me. Let's say that I'm not able to, like tonight, I couldn't really engage because I'm, as I said before, I'm like behind the scenes doing things, but I feel a great sense of relaxation, and I feel that I attune with you, Priscilla, and Luis, even though I couldn't do the same thing that the three of you were doing. I don't know if you have anything to say about that, this idea of moving with others by way of visualization, by imagining the movement. I know it might not be ideal because the body needs to move for real, but in situations like that, like now when there's COVID, there's like isolation, what happens when people even imagine moving? Does something happen to the system? I don't know. By
So first of all, I see this as the work of Moshé Feldenkrais is is more like we're finding questions, we're finding relevant questions, and I think this is a central part of the method. Like the questions you had now. So how do you arrive at such a question? You need to be in a certain situation, very sophisticated. You need to be in a room where people move in a certain way where you can participate mentally. It's not just when I go to a concert and I listen to Schubert and Bach, I cannot really participate because I have no idea about music, but everybody moves. So we have a basic, and we have a basic training as babies, at least. Of course, now you're professionals, but I see this happening. So I can only speak from my experience. I'm not a scientific researcher. Like when I read papers like the bilocation paper, they have numbers and they make statistics and they do the same experiment with a lot of people. But I have this experience when you're in a room in a class like this, a somatic education class, and everybody moves, and in the beginning everybody's different, and then they find the way to do it. And even you can see the difference between Priscilla and Luis, their solution, their way of moving, but it's the same movement. And I think, what do I think? the intensity, we have a level of intensity. You can just rest and think about the movement, or you can do it a little bit, or you can do it a lot, and you can start to do it with sweating. So you can turn the knob of the intensity, the volume, but you can make it very quiet. So you're not just moving very slowly and little, but you're not moving, you're just experiencing it in your kinesthetic system. And I think this is making connections. It's like when I know from professional sports, the skiers, before they go downhill, they will go through the route in their mind, or the race car drivers, they take every curve in their mind before they go out and do it for real. And I think this observation, this idea you just brought up, is a very real thing. And yes, and also on the part of community, I think it's important to connect with people. So again, I try to connect to other fields. Like psychology, we know when children are alone too much, it's not good for them. They cannot develop. So even if they have enough food and they have space and they have, I don't know, what they need to stay alive, they don't develop as well as if they are together with other children. And I guess the same for movement. We need to learn these cultural patterns of movement, how like in Italy, they move differently than in Stockholm. So maybe it's the weather, the temperature, but maybe it's the way a culture is moving. If we are allowed to move the pelvis, or if you're not allowed. And we learn these cultural codes of movement, but then we can also look at other cultures, and we can be on our own and discover things the other people have not discovered, like in ski jumping. Before they were all jumping like this, and now they all jump like this because one guy came up with the idea to jump like this and not like this, and now everybody jumps like this because they found out, oh, that's actually better.
Thank you so much. This is, I find this to be fascinating. And also, you talked about the grammar of language, and I'm wondering about all of that in regards not only to, but I'm thinking what comes to my mind now is like activism, like moving forward and correcting things or restoring things that had been historically wrong and undoing outdated systems and systemic oppression and all of that. And like the language, the grammar of moving, how do I move as an activist? How do I move as a teacher? If I knew the language, because a lot of the language I do, who has not been trained professionally as a dancer, it's, you know, I've been learning that, but a lot of the language I do up to even up to now, it's just improvised. But if I had that grammar to move forward or to demand something or to fight for something, how would that change a lot in the world? So maybe this doesn't need a response. I just wanted to respond to this idea of the grammar of moving.
And I think it's very mixed up at the moment, because we're just born, we just do it naturally, we go with the flow. But if you look at it, so again, a comparison to psycholinguistics, if you see how a crime novel is written, or how a scientific paper is written, or how a children's story is written, it's very different. The sentences they build, how the words they use, and I was thinking, like, if I make a movement like this, it's like an exclamation mark in a sentence. If I make a movement like this, it's like a question mark. and then I have a subject, object, verb. So I have something I want to do. I reach for my cup. So that's maybe my object. I have something, but then how do I detail this movement? In which way? Like, I know when you drink like this, it's a symbol of power because you're so strong. And if you drink like this, it's a symbol of efficiency, of being rational, because you're moving in a very energy efficient way, and it's easy to drink like this. And I saw the people in close to Turkey, they drink the little cups like this, very efficient. And in Germany, they drink the beer, the very heavy cups like this, because they have so strong arms, they can waste the energy. It's very interesting. Like we observe personality, like they say when you stand like this, it means something. And but I think this is only the surface. It's like, it's not even scratching the surface. I think it's much deeper.
Yeah. Can I add some? I mean, this is a very interesting conversation, and you know, in terms of language, and one of the things that are interesting for me in terms of somatic practices is that actually we are trying to identify our own way of moving, like our own strategies to move. Like, how do I extend my arm? And then I feel, I mean, this is just, you know, I need to think a little bit more about that. I probably have been discussed anyway. But like, in terms of language, so the exciting thing about observing ourselves and how we do things is creating our own language. And then when we come to communicate with other people, we're talking in the language of the body, so we don't have to use words, because words are very limiting and they are very repressive. And you know, when someone speak a book of babies or academic book, etc. So those are codified languages, and I particularly am more interested in the language of the body that is more universal. We can all say, lift my arm, and then, you know, you were talking about the Germans do it like this and the Turkish do it like this, but maybe for the Germans, that's that kind of language that belong to, you know, within the culture, and those are the strategies that they found for the, you know, within the culture.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, what is exciting for me you know, and then each of us can have a very particular grammatic, you know, that could be communal, created within a community. And maybe that's a way to eradicate the differences of like established between, you know, between like me as a Latinx person and you as a, are you from Austria?
Austria. I'm born in
Yeah,
Vienna,
exactly.
Austria.
So, you know, in this kind of like lying down on the floor, lengthening, and of course, I mean, the thing is, somatic practices have been mostly taught in English. If you don't know um, English in this case, you know, we all will be like, what's going on here? We don't know. So I'm just, you know, it's a larger question, a larger discussion. Can spend many hours figuring out how to deal with this. But I mean, it comes down to, and I know that in order for a somatic class to be relatively successful, people have to understand the words. Like, it's no, you know, you cannot mess up the language. So
Yes, yes, yes.
it's too complicated. So now, thank you, Nicholas, for bringing this to the table. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think as a when we learn organically in a culture, we copy, and we're very good at copying. You can, when somebody's walking in front of you, you can walk the same way. You can learn how to walk like another person, but it's like wearing the clothes of another person. So it's a jacket. Okay, I know it's a jacket, but it's not my jacket. It's a very nice jacket, and it fits great to you, but and it's new and there's a beautiful pattern, but it's not my jacket. I will choose a different jacket. and and I think especially in this new field of, if you look at it as new, to look at it, it's easy that somebody will come up and say, okay, this is the right way. Like, here you have 15 kilos to lift, and this is the right way to lift, and if you do it in a different way, it's wrong. And I think this is a danger. that there's people coming and saying this is wrong, right, and this is wrong, because it's an expression. It's like I cannot say the book of Paulo Coelho is wrong because the way he writes is wrong. It need to be like Daniel Steele. No, these are two different people. They move differently. They use different words. They put the words together differently. They have totally different ideas. And I think this we need to respect in movement also. We cannot say you have to get up like this, otherwise it's wrong. No? We can say when you get up like this, then you will have a knee pain in 3 years. That's what we can say. If you always get up the same way like this, I give you the number of my orthopedician.
So what is the language of the pelvis? What is
Yes, yes, yes. And I think the pelvis is a good lens. Like in our movement today, the language was the pelvis was in the middle. It was connecting the head to the feet, the leg movements and the head movements. You can view it from this perspective. And we need something. We need a problem to talk about, or we need to have a topic to talk about. Otherwise, it's just a big sea of movement. But we can see, look at his pelvis, look at her pelvis, and how they move, and then we have something to compare. Suddenly we have something to talk about.
I'm also curious. We have a couple minutes, but in one of our past sessions, one of the guests brought up the relationship between the jaw and the pelvis. So I was wondering if, I know it's a large topic, but if maybe you can give us a little bit of insight on your perspective on the relationship between the jaw and the pelvis.
That's also a big topic. I had a client. She had a locked jaw, and she was to many places, and she was just heard by accident. from my studio in Bregenz, because she was to a dentist, and the dentist said, you can make braces, and it will take like 6 months, and it will cost like 5,000 euro. And she was a single mom, and she didn't have the money. And my classes at this time, I charged like 65 euro per hour. So she came to me, and instead of working with her jaw directly, I was working with head movements to roll the head and roll the chest and then roll the pelvis. Very similar like we did today. Today you stand the right foot and to roll the pelvis to the left. And then you can do this in the other direction. And you start to relate to, you change the bigger pattern. Because this was tight, and the other, it cannot be only this one. It's not possible. It's only here. The whole system is screwed down. You cannot put just the head in the fridge. You put the whole body in the fridge. Or you need to cut off some parts, then you can do it. So we work with the pelvis, with the chest, then with the eyes, and roll the pelvis, roll the head, roll in the different direction. And this started to lose up, and it took 1 hour until she could open the mouth. And then of course it came back in the night, and then we had another session, and she remembered. And it took, like, I sold 5 lessons, but we only needed 3 hours. But she liked the lessons, so she she came back for the last 2, and the problem was solved. Bad business, because I could charge 5,000 if I was a dentist. But I think the pelvis needs to move in relation to the chest, to the ribs, to the head movements, to the eye movements. It's not just move your pelvis, but everything needs to match together. And not just, as we talked before, it's not that you do it like this and then you will be okay, but it's an exploration. And she needs to make it part of her movement practice. She needs to remember to move the head and the eyes in one direction, the other. And on the floor, you had the left arm. So there's movement with the pelvis and the arm, and like, and then the big muscles can do the big work, and the small muscles, they participate in the small way.
Yeah, it goes back to what Nicolas mentioned, that, he was feeling, how one part of the body is in connection with the whole body. So, and that's great. That's amazing how, that what you just mentioned about this lady.
Yeah, this was I was very happy with this client. It's like a proof of concept, but it worked beautifully.
Perhaps also, do you think that it relates also to the willingness of this person to try?
Yes, absolutely. Because especially in our culture, so I think, I don't know where it comes from. So the babies, they want to explore, but even the babies are not allowed to explore everything. So here they put the babies in these little walkers. It's like a little table with a hole in the middle, and then the baby has to stand too early. It's not ready for standing, so it's in this walker and it's pushed around all day. So it's restricted in his movements. They don't learn maybe to roll over the head or do backflips. So, and then of course we come to school, we have to sit all the time. It's sit still, don't shake your legs. Why you always shake your legs? You're making me nervous. Stop moving your legs. And it's like this the whole day. So if you listen to parents, of course they have to work, and it's terribly strenuous to be a parent, but it's like this the whole day. Sit still, don't move. And some kids, they don't accept this. They say, okay, you're talking, I don't care, I move. And a lot of kids, they accept, and they become like in a caste, and then they live in this cage. And even later, when they're adults and they're free, they keep on living in this invisible cage. And so part of this work is to slowly, without, I mean, this is very deep psychological work, without looking for the, it's your mother's fault because we don't do this. it's you can do this. You can think of your nose. You can think of the back of your head. You can think of the front side, the back side, and we melting the eyes, and then we try to stay within the emotional capacity of a person. So it no tears and no, it feels good to move like this. I like it, and maybe I will go buy the red, I don't know, the red coat I always wanted to buy, but I was thinking it's not appropriate for me. And then I go, I buy it, and I like it. I like to wear this red coat, and the people, they look funny at me, I don't care. And some people, they think I look great. and maybe I will go to talk to that artist I always wanted to talk. All right, so thank you so much for participating. Really great participation, very lively discussion. Lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alphonse.
Thank you so much.
Alphonse, I wanted to mention that this series is made possible with the support of the Glock Fellows Program of the Arts, the Interior Beauty Salon, and the University of California, Riverside Dance Department. So thank you to everyone who made this possible. Priscilla, if you want to bring us into a closure.
Yeah, just muchas gracias. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the wonderful conversation. Alphonse, I really appreciate. I'm so excited to continue collaborating with you. I feel like every time I'm learning something new and also just laughing so much. So thank you so much for bringing that in, for giving us an opportunity to feel good and connected and also just laugh. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.